Welcome everyone to the Inspired Choices Network TV show. I am your host, Christine McIver, and this week we have another inspiring guest, Christine Noble. Christine Noble is going to be talking to us about storytelling and more. Christine is an author, a speaker, and also a hypnotherapist. Yes. And welcome to the show, Christine.
Thanks for having me, Christine.
You're welcome. It's going to be the Christine and Christine show today.
Yes.
So tell me about the storytelling. What is storytelling in your world? When did that all come to your world?
Well, we all tell stories in our life, and I've always loved to tell stories. Also telling stories to make a point with the kids, or sometimes to get a point across with a friend.
Yes.
Yeah, so we all tell stories. And as a hypnotherapist, I found more and more we were telling stories that created our life. So in a negative way, people, for example, teaching childbirth with hypnosis, I found that women were telling stories about their childbirth that were negative, or they were repeating stories when that may not even be true. But the parasympathetic nervous system takes over, and our body believes the stories that we tell.
So what's happening to our body when we're retelling a negative, quote unquote, negative story?
Our bodies are acting as if it's real, and it's somebody else's story, or it was a story from a past experience, but it doesn't have to be right now.
So if you're telling a story of a birth, a childbirth that you had, and there was negative, aspects in that story, does your body start to have responses in the present time to the story that you're telling?
Well, it affects the whole moment. Whereas if you could so for myself, for example, I gave birth very young to 2 boys, and if I retell one of the stories about, the moment that I held him in my arms and I looked in his eyes and how I felt, I can feel that oxytocin flowing through my body even in this moment right now. Wow. I can feel my eyes glaze over, like that's an amazing moment. So to share that with another mom, not about some of the more the challenges or the less, things that are unpleasant.
Yes.
But telling those stories, and then it becomes a joyous moment. It doesn't become this trauma. Okay. It becomes a joyous moment. So when you reflect back, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes, And of course it's all true, but you're choosing what you're going to tell and share, and what's going to be your story about your birth, for example, just with birth. But I see people, women, creating different stories, for instance, about a divorce, like how horrible it is. It's like, how much better do you feel now?
After you tell the horrible part of it.
Yeah, but let's say, what did you learn about yourself? How did you grow through that? What's like the best experience that you had? Like what is the good thing? So could you tell yourself that story? Could you share that story with someone? Because when we get together, as a group, we share stories. A good example, last night I sat around a table and everyone was sharing horror stories about flying and the different airlines, how horrible they are, and everyone had a story that would be worse than the last story told. And it was going on, and I'm like, listen, isn't it amazing that we can fly to other countries, that we can, even if it takes us another day, that we're in like this metal in the air moving. Like, if you think about that, that's really amazing. And all of our travel adventures, like what's your best travel adventure? When you landed, like what was the best experience that you've ever had landing?
So what you're talking about is changing the lens.
Yes.
Where are we really focusing in? Okay, I like this. All right, so Christine, when did you start to become aware of this? Like how old were you when you started to see this happening?
I had an aha moment when I was about 22. And it was a situation where someone said they were going to be right back, and they didn't come right back, and we had to go somewhere. And so I was really angry, and I would have had every right. I would have been entitled to yell, to be angry, but I don't know, something came over me, and I just thought, what if I change my behavior? What if I choose my reaction instead of just feel it? And, and so when that person came back, I said, I've missed you. We've missed this event, but let's do something else. And so this other person was really thrown off. And
because they were anticipating you to be angry?
Yes. And it's like, so although I still felt like a little miffed and I didn't make excuses for that person, I didn't, it's like, okay, this is my day today. This is my weekend. This is, I'm not going to throw it all away on being angry. I'm going to choose not to be.
Right.
And so let's, be at the park in the sun and let's just have a good day, regardless. And I'm not saying that you should discard your feelings. I'm not saying that. But at that moment, and I was just 22 and I didn't know what I was doing, I just felt so empowered that I chose to tell my story that weekend.
I love that. So what we could actually, you could have said to this person, this was not okay, this is how you made me feel, and then kind of say, okay, I'm done with that. And then choose what the story will be.
Yes.
So what you're saying is we have the option to create the story in the moment.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what does that do for our bodies? Being a hypnotherapist, what are you seeing when people are changing their lens, when they're changing what the story will be?
So there's going to be less pain in the body, less stress, less anxiety. So breathing, clearer thinking. There's a whole host of benefits. Like you'll see somebody's shoulders just come down. It's like, yeah, you can just, you don't have to stay in that mess. Just a little further ahead, I had somebody who was really angry with me for a specific reason, and they probably had every right to be at that moment, but they chose to be mad at me for 3 days. So on day 2, I'm like, well, how long does this last with you? Like, do you have is it, a couple of hours? If you just let me know, then I can plan the rest of the week accordingly. Because
how did they respond to that question?
They didn't think it was funny as I did. Just let me know, because there's things I want to do, and it's like if this is, I'm not going to be around you when you're this angry. So let me know how long it normally takes you. And then we talked about it later, and they thought that was pretty funny later. And it was 3 days, and I said, is 3 days your normal? And the person said yes. And I said, well, what if you could cut that in half? Would that make your life better? So just decide it's going to be a day and a half instead of 3 days.
It's of course, my business is Inspired Choices. It's all about choices.
Yes.
And so what, I love this, that we really do have the choice around how much we're going to feed that anger and how we are going to learn something different and self-teach ourselves something different. So I know that you have a number of books that you've written and co-authored, and I'd love to talk more about that. But what I'm very curious about is, I know you've written a number of books for children.
Yes.
And they are called
KikkyBoo books.
KikkyBoo books.
Yep. KikkyBoo. KikkyBoo books. Yes.
That's awesome. And what drew you to write for children?
Well, I was teaching English overseas in a wonderful little city and a great crew, but I learned quickly that stories worked very well, repetitive stories. And I had 2 books that were repetitive stories, but I got so tired of teaching those 2 books. So I thought, I got to do my own story. And this story is going to have prepositions in it and days of the week and different emotions. And so I started telling that story, and I was using props. Like I was finding, little pine cones and sticks and the whiteboard, and I was just sort of making the story. And I thought, it would be so much easier if I took pictures of these things and put them in the slip covers and put them in a binder. That's a book. That's a book. I could do that. So now, just before that, so I had this idea of the book for that book. That first one was called Andrew, Where Are You? And then what happened next is I wrote a little song, and it's a little rap song for kids, a little bit sassy. Yes, I think the chorus went, I want you, but you're on the phone, talking to friends. It sometimes seems your interest ends. Consider that your friends may come and go, but me, your kid, I'm here for you to know. And that was the chorus. And
right.
So I told that to a friend of mine in Ontario, and she ended up giving it to her son, unbeknownst to me, who produced it in their basement, handed it back to me, fully created.
Wonderful.
And then I was using it, then 5 months later when I went back to Turkey, I was using this song, and we're singing it in the classroom from just writing it with no effort. And I'm like, well, if that can happen, like anything's possible. I can do I could write these books. If the kids love this song this much, then what I could do is my books, they could become books. And I can tell you, I wrote Andrew, Where Are You? About prepositions, because he hides. So they have to look behind, under, beside, in, up, down, and all around. And I also had this great idea that I'd love a real singer to sing part of this book with me. I had a singer-songwriter come to me, and we did a program. She started singing my book. We went to the recording studio we found in Turkey. We managed without English. And she sang, it's Janice Stanfield, a wonderful singer, songwriter, speaker, and she's singing on one of my books. So that's on YouTube with her singing. Again, I just had that idea that I would love to see it happen. And because it happened so naturally, I thought, again, because I'm telling my stories, oh, this could happen. This could happen that I use this book and it becomes a song. So Jana sang part of the song, because I have not yet fully developed my singing voices, which of course it exists, but I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet.
Yes. So yeah, and some of the other stories that I developed were a gift to my family. So the one book is called Terry Remembered, and great book. It separates the behavior from the child. So the message is, I don't always like what you do, but I always love you. Every day in every way you are learning and growing and being the best you can be. And then Terry Remembered, I am good. So the stories are all real from our family. Yes, he did give the hamster swimming lessons in the toilet. He did shoot my clothes on the clothesline from on top of the garage. Yes, he did color the walls with crayons. But that was the behavior, not him. And in the end, there's a situation as he grows where he's given an opportunity to participate in some behavior not very nice, and he says no because he remembers. I am good. He
remembers. Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, that's why it's called Terry Remembered. But my family, like my brothers, sister, parents, yeah, we're all in there.
You're all in there. That's amazing.
Yes.
So you've written the children's books and the books for the family.
Yeah.
And have you written adult books as well?
Well, I have co-created a book. The actual author is my writing partner, Trish Damore, and she was the actual writer on that book. But we co-created the plot, the characters, and so book one is out. It's called 5 Questions. It's on Amazon now. And there's questions asked and questions answered coming out as well.
Oh, wonderful. So it'll be a series of 3?
Yes.
Fabulous.
And I'm also doing a solo book right now too. I'm working on. So in 2020 it'll be out.
It will be out. This is amazing. So what are you finding with adults about stories and where they're at with storytelling?
Oh, geez. In my personal experience with people and their stories, when you talk to people, you can just ask them one question to tweak their stories a little bit. Because I find often they're going back and telling stories. Well, tell me a story, and it's like about their grandmother, and I'm like, well, when did that happen? Because they're like my age, like you're talking about your grandmother, and it's like, oh, 30 years ago. It's like, and you're still telling that story?
So are you finding we're stuck?
Yes.
In our stories of the past?
Yes, and I feel like when we're stuck with all these old stories, that we're not going to allow our creative process to flow, to move forward.
Okay.
So it's yeah, and for myself, I took 3 years off because I had a little hiatus, but I was not I was stuck on some stories. Just because I know all that I know doesn't mean that I do all that I say. You know, it's a process, right? We're all growing and learning and being the best we can be.
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, so I find that I've come up with some processes for myself and through some books that I've read to get unstuck and to move forward with my creative processes and with my stories.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what are you creating now? You're creating your own book, and you're also a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
So where can people find you to work with you, and what do you do with them when they find you?
So I St. Thomas Hypnotherapy and More is my business, my clinic in St. Thomas, Ontario. And I also work over Skype or phone as well. And I also, I'm still writing, of course, and producing, yes. But that's where I can be found, is in St. Thomas. Find me on Facebook. I'm really friendly to, yes.
You're on YouTube?
Yes, I am on YouTube.
As well?
Yes,
Fabulous.
I have a YouTube channel.
And do you have a website?
Yes, KikkyBoo.com is my website for the children's books.
Okay.
And hypnotherapy, stthomashypnotherapy.com.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yes.
That's great. So if you could write a story for adults, what would you write for us to learn?
About taking the high road, even in a bad situation. So, for instance, the solo book I'm working on now, it sounds like it's a mess, but really, despite what happens, people make choices that are over and beyond what they feel. So they can acknowledge what they feel, but they'll still, the one character, for instance, Kate, looks at the situation and she'll make her decision based on what's best for everyone and also what's best for her, not just best for her and not everyone else. And she makes everybody face, there's no like, she's a hard ass, this Kate. There's no getting around her, but she'll say, no, like, so this is what you chose, these are the consequences. For instance, somebody says, well, what do we tell people about this? Well, you'll tell them, and she's point blank, this is what happened. There's no lying the truth. This is what happened. This is where we are now.
Okay.
So like, she holds everyone to their
She's
stuff.
the truth teller.
But she's also kind and compassionate. But it's hard to see in the beginning.
It's hard to see in the beginning.
Yes. So yeah. So just showing people through my characters that they can grow when they have different choices. They're not stuck with the choices. I think we get hypnotized from the media and watching other people act out, you know, throw things, smash things, you know, like this is okay to be like this. It's like, yeah, that doesn't get you anywhere. You know?
Right. And I think what's important as well is that we really look at, hey, you have other choices you can make.
Yes.
And if you, like you said with that person that took 3 days
Yes.
to process their anger, if that's actually not working for you, you could look at possibly choosing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that idea because a lot of times people, they claim, this is what I do. This is what works for me. This is, you know, and oftentimes when you hear them say, this is what works for me, it's like, does it really? Are you happy with that?
Or this is who I am, and
Yes.
I can't change that.
Yes.
No, you can't if you say that. Like,
Right.
Yeah, but what if you could?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, many, many years ago, I did the same thing. I had a very strong opinion and a temper. And I said, well, I'm Irish. That's what we are. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. And then I went, whoa, 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 what am I doing? Mm-hmm. You know, I could really feel that. It's like, I have a choice in this situation. If I decide that I'd like something to change, I can make it change.
Yes.
I love these books. And so are all of the books that you're doing and will be doing, they'll all be available on Amazon?
Well, KikkyBoo books are available through me.
Okay.
Unless you're in Fort McMurray, because I do have, that's my second home. I do have, they're in Kohl's there.
Okay.
And if they're ever not in the shelves, I know they have more in the back. And so in Ontario, I do ship them. And I have shipped them all over the world. Yeah.
So they would contact you direct to get the children's books?
There's an order form.
Okay,
yes,
on the
but
website.
if you're local, yeah, sometimes people order them from me and I sign them and I ship them directly to the child who's
that's
getting
wonderful.
them. So that's kind of nice that a child gets a package in the mail and they open it up and it says, you know, to Joan, always love your pets.
Oh,
you know, yeah.
something like that. That's fabulous. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I really love that. Well, Christine, I can't wait to read more of your books and to really see what else you're going to be creating in the future. And I would love to have you come back and share with us your book in the future.
I can't wait. Yes, I can't wait till I have
So
more.
can you tell us what the next book title will be? The one you're writing solo?
Yes, Wife, Mistress, and Kids.
Wife, Mistress, and Kids. Oh, that's a really very different. I love that you're going in so many different directions.
Yes.
That's
and
awesome.
everybody behaving well.
And everybody behaving well. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So if you would like to learn more about Christine Noble, please do check her out on social media and also at KikkyBooBooks.com. And as well, if you would like to learn more about being an inspired guest here on the Inspired Choices Network TV show, you can contact me, Christine, at inspiredchoices.ca. Until next week, keep making inspired choices.